You're my hero." The snow fell gently through the amber glow of the park lamps, each flake dancing like tiny stars against the evening sky. Michael pulled his worn coat tighter around his shoulders as he sat on the cold bench, watching his breath form small clouds in the winter air. The park was quiet except for the soft crunch of snow beneath the occasional passerby's feet. He reached into his jacket pocket and felt the familiar crinkle of wax paper. His last sandwich, turkey and cheese, on die-old bread from the discount grocery store. It wasn't much, but it was all he had left until his paycheck came through tomorrow. The past few months had been harder than he'd ever imagined when Sarah had left. Being a single father to Emma wasn't just about love and bedtime stories anymore. It was about stretching every dollar, making every meal count, and somehow keeping hope alive when the world felt impossibly heavy. Michael unwrapped the sandwich slowly, his fingers stiff from the cold. The bread was a little stale, but it would fill the empty space in his stomach that had been gnawing at him since lunch. He'd given Emma the last of the peanut butter that morning for her school lunch, along with the apple he'd been saving for himself. Seeing her smile as she headed off to school was worth more than any meal. As he lifted the sandwich to take his first bite, he heard something that made him pause. Soft crying, muffled but unmistakable. He looked around and spotted two small figures huddled together on a bench across the path. Two little girls, maybe 6 and 8 years old, sitting close together with snow dusting their thin jackets. The younger one clutched a small teddy bear, while the older girl had her arm protectively around her sister's shoulders. Michael's heart clenched. He recognized that kind of crying. Not the loud wailing of a scraped knee or a broken toy, but the quiet, desperate tears of real hunger and cold. He'd heard Emma cry like that once, early in their struggles, when he thought she was asleep but she'd been lying awake worrying about whether they'd have enough food for dinner. Without thinking, Michael stood up. His legs felt stiff from the cold bench, but he walked slowly across the snowy path toward the two girls. As he got closer, he could see they were indeed very young, with rosy cheeks from the cold and eyes that looked too old for their faces. "Hey, there," he said softly, crouching down so he wouldn't seem so tall and scary. "Are you two okay?" The older girl looked up at him with suspicious eyes, pulling her sister closer. "We're fine, mister," she said, but her voice trembled with more than just cold. Michael glanced around the park. No adults in sight, no one who looked like they might be with these children. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" The younger girl sniffled and buried her face in her teddy bear. The older one's chin quivered as she tried to be brave. "Mama's at work. She said to wait here until she gets back. But that was a long time ago." Michael felt his throat tighten. He knew that feeling all too well. The desperation of trying to work any job that would take you, even if it meant leaving your children somewhere you hoped would be safe. The impossible choice between earning money for food and being there to protect them. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently. Both girls nodded, and the younger one whispered, "My tummy hurts." Michael looked down at the sandwich in his hands. His stomach cramped with its own hunger, but looking at these two small faces, he knew there was really no choice at all. He unwrapped the sandwich completely and carefully broke it into 3 equal pieces. "Here," he said, offering the larger pieces to each girl. "This should help with that tummy ache." The older girl stared at the sandwich piece like it was made of gold. But what about you, mister?" "I'm not very hungry right now," Michael lied smoothly, settling down on the bench beside them. "Besides, food always tastes better when you share it with friends." The girls ate slowly, savoring each bite. Michael nibbled at his small portion, making it last as long as possible while watching them. Color returned to their cheeks and their shoulders relaxed slightly as the food warmed them from the inside. "What are your names?" Michael asked. "I'm Sophie," said the older girl, "and this is my little sister Lucy." "I'm Michael, and you know what? I have a little girl about your age. Her name is Emma." Lucy looked up at him with curious eyes. "Where is she?" "She's at home, probably doing her homework right now. She's very good at math, much better than I am." As they talked, Michael kept watching for any sign of an adult looking for the girls. The snow continued to fall, and the park grew darker. He couldn't just leave them here alone, but he also wasn't sure what else to do. "Sophie," he said carefully, "do you know your mama's phone number?" Sophie recited a number, which Michael memorized. "Would it be okay if I called her to let her know you're safe?" "I have a phone." The call went to voicemail, but Michael left a message explaining where the girls were and that they were okay. While they waited, he told them stories about Emma's adventures at school, making them giggle despite their situation. 20 minutes later, a woman came running through the snow, her work uniform visible beneath her open coat. "Sophie, Lucy," she called out, her voice breaking with relief. The girls ran to her and she swept them into her arms, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, babies. The bus broke down, and I couldn't get here, and my phone died, and I was so scared." Michael stood back, watching the reunion with a full heart, despite his empty stomach. The woman looked over at him, questions in her eyes. "This nice man shared his sandwich with us, Mama," Sophie said. "We were really hungry and he gave us his food." The woman's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Michael. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." "No need," Michael said softly. We all need help sometimes. As the family prepared to leave, little Lucy broke away from her mother and ran back to Michael. She tugged on his coat until he crouched down to her level. You're my hero, she whispered, giving him a fierce hug that warmed him more than any coat ever could. Michael walked home through the snow, his stomach empty but his heart full. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight had reminded him that sometimes being a hero wasn't about having everything you needed. Sometimes it was about sharing what little you had, especially when someone else needed it more. When he opened his apartment door, Emma looked up from her homework with a bright smile. Hi, Daddy. How was your day? Michael smiled back, pulling her into a hug. It was good, sweetheart, really good. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the world in quiet beauty, while inside, love made everything warm.